Michael. They're not sitting next to a 20-year person. They're sitting next to each other, and they're trying to figure it out in a system that is overrun and overburdened. And when you have 21, 22-year-old men and women out there doing the best they can, but with nobody next to them that's really got all that experience, it's a recipe for disaster, and it's already proven that it has led to disaster. Since 2020, I've had 12 members commit suicide.
Pardon me, Anthony, we have just a few seconds left. Are there any concerns that wearing body armor will interfere with giving care out in the field? We have 10 seconds left.
I don't think it'll interfere. That'll be an adjustment. Members will have to learn how to work around it with the calls on a case-by-case basis. I'd rather them have it and not need it, and need it and not have it. So they'll have to figure that out, and I think they will.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you. Anthony Almagieri is a lieutenant paramedic with the FDNY EMS and the vice president of the Uniformed EMS Officers Union, Local 3621. Thank you for joining us on this.
Thank you, Michael. Have a great day.
WNYC is supported by Atlantic Theater Company, presenting The Welkin, a dark and comedic new play about democracy, and Housework by Lucy Kirkwood, directed by Sarah Benson, featuring Sandra Oh. Performances begin May 16th. Tickets at atlantictheater.org.
On the next Brian Lehrer Show, could this be the year that marijuana becomes legal nationwide? Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has just introduced a bill, and President Biden is taking steps to help medical research and today's legal dispensaries succeed. We'll explain. Also, excerpts from a new podcast about competition and girlhood in America. The Brian Lehrer Show, weekdays at 10 a.m. on WNYC.
56 with sunshine out, partly sunny, and 67 for a high on this Friday. Then tomorrow, mostly cloudy and 63 with a chance of rain overnight into Sunday, and Sunday cloudy and near 60. It's 6:52.
If at first you don't succeed, buy back your stock.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com. And by Bitwarden, the password manager used by millions for streamlined password management at home and at work. Learn more about stress-free security at bitwarden.com.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. Apple, of iPhone and MacBook fame, reported sales and profits for the winter quarter that lacked luster. But the company says better times are ahead as it triggered maneuvers to cheer up investors.
Apple says quarterly revenue was down 4% from the same time last year, but revenue fell less than analysts expected. iPhone sales were down. Apple is facing stiff competition from Samsung, which is incorporating AI into more of its devices. Sales fell in China, where Apple competes against the Chinese company Huawei. Apple's CEO Tim Cook says revenue will start growing again in its third quarter. The company also announced its board has authorized an extra $110 billion for share buybacks. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
The stock buyback, an increase in cash back to investors as dividends, seems to be working. Despite these results, Apple's stock is up 6% in pre-market trading now. It's been just over 5 weeks since Trump Media and Technology Group, ticker symbol DJT, started trading on the NASDAQ. This week, a regulatory filing showed the company has issued around $1.5 billion worth of new shares to former President Donald Trump, the main owner. Trump Media now has a market valuation, meaning on paper, of $6.7 billion. Marketplace's senior Washington correspondent Kimberly Adams is here with context. Hey.
Hi, David.
That valuation fluctuates with the stock price, but what do we know about what the pros call the fundamentals?
It depends on who you ask. Trump Media is the parent company of Truth Social, which is obviously the preferred platform for the former President Trump, but it's not a very big platform. Jay Ritter teaches finance at the University of Florida and is an expert on IPOs, and he says it's hard to justify the current share price.
Its sources of revenue are paid subscribers and advertising revenue. and neither of them is growing. The indications are it's actually losing subscribers, and its expenses are vastly in excess of the $4 million of revenue that it's bringing in. So this is a small company that is not growing and is losing money hand over fist.
It's basically a meme stock, with the price being driven up by retail investors, often fans of the former president, who see this as a way to support him.
And why did DJT, the Republican standard bearer, get the additional shares, which will certainly help him in the personal wealth department?
Yeah, Trump is the majority stakeholder in the company, and he did just get an even bigger share of the company. So Trump Media went public by merging with a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. And as part of that merger agreement, if the stock price stayed at about $17.50 for 20 consecutive trading days, which it did, Trump would get an extra 36 million shares in the company. That brings his total to 114 million, almost 2/3 of all the shares available. So here's Jay Ritter at the University of Florida again.
So the price has gone up, and the number of shares has gone up. And when you take these two things into account, his paper wealth has almost doubled in the last 2 weeks to $5 billion in this company.
But Trump can't sell those shares until September unless he gets a waiver from the company's board, which is likely since that's made up of his family and inner circle, but it would need SEC approval. And Ritter says it's going to be hard for Trump to convert all this to cash anytime soon. Of course, if the price of the stock goes down before Trump sells, which many short sellers are hoping it will, that would decrease how much the former president stands to make.
All right. Marketplace's senior Washington correspondent Kimberly Adams. Thank you for this.
You're welcome, David.
In about an hour and a half, we'll get the government reports on hiring and unemployment for the month just ended. Forecasters are betting it'll be 240,000 more people on payrolls, a solid showing, but down more than 20% from March. We will see. S&P futures are now up 0.4%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Rubrik, a cybersecurity company focused on securing the world's data. When cyber attacks put businesses, reputations, and careers at risk, Rubrik provides the power to bounce back fast and become cyber resilient. Rubrik.com. And by C3 Generative AI. C3 Generative AI enables rapid access to secure, traceable, hallucination-free insights from enterprising systems, all while using any LLM, helping enterprises turn the invisible into the obvious. Learn more at c3.ai.
Tomorrow is Free Comic Book Day. Comic book stores will help you with that. Comic books are booming globally. It was a $15 billion market in 2022, according to Fortune Business Insights, with growth predicted in the years ahead. Here's Marketplace's Stephanie Hughes.
At Midtown Comics near Times Square in New York, manager Jay Schmidt is expecting a line out the door for Free Comic Book Day. He says some people will then get the comic bug.
You know, we do get a ton of new customers and readers afterwards.
Some long-standing customers will check it out too, including 38-year-old Christopher Oroquinto, who also creates his own comics. He likes the medium because he feels in control of how he consumes it.
You can look at it as long as you want. If you're watching a movie, they actually control how long you're looking at stuff. So
the store relies on people getting hooked on looking and wanting to know what happens next, says Midtown Comics co-owner Jerry Gladstone.
Every Wednesday is new release day in the comic book business. So the faithful come in every Wednesday and they get their fix.
And those comic books are a major source of ideas for the movie industry. Shauna Kidman's an author of the book Comic Books Incorporated, How the Business of Comics Became the Business of Hollywood.
Comic books were really good at coming up with good intellectual property in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. We have the special effects now that can make those kinds of movies.
Kidman says a lot of growth in the comic industry overall is being driven by the sales of graphic novels. There's lots of choices. Superheroes like Spider-Man and superheroines like Jo March in a graphic novel version of Little Women. In New York, I'm Stephanie Hughes for Marketplace.
Author, speechwriter, and political satirist Christopher Buckley was once asked about his big literary influences. He said, Mad Magazine. I saw that and thought, same here. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio. You're listening to the Marketplace Morning Report. 8 p.m., American Public Media.